And welcome back to Fantasy Central. It's Z Daddy, aka Z Money, aka the ORACLE, here with the one and only, the fantasy guru himself, Effie.
What's up, fantasy footballers? If you're paying attention to this episode, then you're probably either looking good in the playoffs or in need of some help for some playoffs. Hope we can help you either way.
Yeah, the fantasy football playoffs are underway, and if you were luckier than myself and able to advance last weekend, we have some great insight and predictions for you today. But real quick, as always, hop on our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. Once we hit 1,000 subscribers, we're giving out a free NFL jersey. Takes 10 seconds. You'll get a $100 value if you're that one lucky fan. Help us out, help you out. That's all I got to say there. So with that said, you ready to rumble, Hefe?
Let's do it.
All right, week 15, round 2 or round 1 if you're in a 2-week matchup. Let's hit the waiver wire first. And as always, we'll start with the running backs. If you're in need of a running back this week, who are you targeting?
So first, I want to start with the Dolphins here, and you're looking at either DeAndre Washington. Salvin Ahmed might be back in the lineup. That's not guaranteed. So it's a little iffy. If you're going to go with one of these guys, you're going to want to pay attention to the injury report. I think it's going to be DeAndre Washington, but I have heard rumblings of Salvin Ahmed getting back in the lineup. But also, either which way, I like Lynn Bowden Jr. There's some obvious injury issues with Dolphins receivers right now, and he just had 7 catches for 82 yards out of the backfield. Doesn't get the carries, but he does a lot of the receiving work for them out of the backfield, and so I think he's going to have to get used in this game, and I think he will be used pretty heavily. They're playing New England this weekend, and New England not good against the run. That's why I like whoever the starter is this week for Miami. I want that guy, but either way, I would like to have Lynn Bowden at least in my flex spot, possibly running back too. And then the other running back that I have here is Jeff Wilson Jr. And this is completely dependent on whether or not Raheem Mostert plays, and it seems like he's going to be out. He might end up missing a week or two, maybe the last 3. They might just go ahead and hold him out. He's had some issues with that ankle and is bugging him again, so they might go ahead and hold him out. So if you're looking for somebody, maybe a little sneaky option here for the last run of your playoffs, Jeff Wilson Jr. has looked pretty good as the number 2. When he's gotten his shot as the number 1, he looked pretty good too. So somebody that I'd be more than comfortable with picking up and starting this week.
I agree with you on the Jeff Wilson pickup. Back when he was number 1, he had, 3-4 touchdowns in one game or something like that before he got hurt in the same game. Exploded. So he's definitely more than capable of producing. Kyle Shanahan's just an absolute offensive genius. So that's a pretty good pickup there. As far as the Dolphins players, I have to kind of agree with you. You never know, especially because we talk about this in the regular podcast that with Fitzpatrick in there, I feel like the Dolphins' offense is limited. But to his making progressions, he can definitely rely on his running backs. And I think that offensive system under Brian Flores is capable of producing high value for players in fantasy football as well. The question is going against his old boss and Bill Belichick. You never know there.
Yeah, that's
But
the point. That's why I think they're going to lean on the running back. So because New England, like I said, not good against the run, and Belichick against rookie quarterbacks, I think it's undefeated, right? Like, and it's not even close. So, going against Tua here, there would be, I think, more incentive to lean on the running game in this game, and that's why I mentioned starting 2 different running backs for them, because I think either which way you're looking at, if they get down in this game, because that's what happens when Belichick plays rookie quarterbacks, then Lynn Bowden should have a good game. But I think they're going to lean on the run game. So either way.
yeah, you have a very fair point there. All right, well, let's move on to wide receivers. Who are you looking at picking up on the wire this week?
So I've mentioned these first 2 a couple times before. Last week we talked about Tim Patrick. I still like him. He's still out there in a decent amount of leagues. He's putting up at least 10 a game. Flex option is his floor. So you like that. He's kind of consistent in that range, gives you anywhere between 12, 10 and 15 pretty much every game. So again, like Tim Patrick, talked about Nelson Aguilar before, but he has a lot of targets over the last few games. He's getting a lot of big plays, and he's not dropping the ball a lot like he did in Philly. So as long as the targets are there, the volume's there, then I like him as an option every week, especially down the stretch here. And the last receiver I have here is Chad Hansen for the Houston Texans. Now they're going up against the Colts, so maybe more of a flex consideration here. I guess you might want to look at whether or not Brandon Cook's probably going to be back in the lineup this week. Keep an eye on that. Kiki QT may or may not be in the lineup. Keep an eye on that. Hansen may be a third option. But even when he was third option in the first matchup with the Colts, he had a pretty good impact when Brandon Cooks and Kiki QT were both in the game anyway. So somebody that, if you're looking for an option in a deeper league, then I like Chad Hansen.
Yeah, don't really have much to add there. Tim Patrick has been consistent. He hasn't been getting ridiculous numbers, but like you said, he's been averaging around 10 a game, which if you're in need of a player, that's pretty solid. Same thing with Aguilar. He's been balling out the last few weeks. He went against this Colts secondary that's absolutely ridiculous and had a pretty solid game against them. You were correct with the targets and the volume. And the Chad Hansen one, I'm not so sure on, but they don't call me the fantasy guru. They call you. So we'll see how that turns out. All right. Well, you got one quarterback on the wire this week. Who you looking at?
Yeah, we talked about him last week, but he came out and he did his thing this week, and it's going to be Jalen Hurts, somebody that of course you see a quarterback rush for over 100 yards. You got to go pick this guy up. It's probably not going to be that heavy every week, right? But even if he regresses, looking at maybe 40 or 50 yards, maybe a touchdown on the ground, which is an extra 2 points, obviously, in most leagues. And so Jalen Hurts could be a fantasy league winner for somebody that's lucky enough to get him.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to have to agree this week. Last week, I wasn't real sure about it, but he did really well against one of the best defenses in the NFL, the New Orleans Saints, last week. So I can't argue with you there. I mean, don't really have much to say. So, all right, let's move on to must start players based off the best matchups for the week. Running backs, go.
So first, we're going to start with Cam Akers going against the Jets. This is obvious, right? Just came off a huge game, 177 yards, two back-to-back really good games. So they're going to lean on him here. The only way he doesn't absolutely explode in this game is if they get up and they decide to play the other backs instead. That's the only worry I have here, is that it's too much of a blowout and the Rams want to rest their key guys. But Cam Akers should at least get a touchdown, should give you some value in this game. I've already mentioned Lynn Bowden, somebody that for sure should be started with the volume of passing. New England not good against running backs. Play him. And obviously, again, the Dolphins starter, if that's DeAndre Washington. I like him as an option, as a decent floor option this week. I also like Salvin Ahmad. If he's the running back, that's a starter. Doesn't really matter. Whoever that guy is, keep an eye on the injury report. If you're able to get one, I like them as a starter against New England. And Kareem Hunt. And I put him here again because he's been a little up and down. He had some down performances that really hurt my fantasy team in Zach's league. And, down the stretch there, finally came back, had a good game. And I feel like that's going to be the recipe for them, especially against the Giants. This is a game that I expect the Browns to be able to get up in this game and be able to lean on Kareem Hunt towards the end of the game again. And I think they want to keep Nick Chubb relatively healthy, right? Of course, going into the playoffs, and they want to keep him well rested, legs fresh. Kareem has some pretty fresh legs right now because they leaned on Nick Chubb for so long. So I think they'll use Kareem Hunt down the stretch here, keep kind of changing that out so that when they get in the playoffs, they can lean on Nick Chubb some more. So I think Kareem Hunt should be somebody a pretty good flex option, running back two option for the last 3 weeks here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he put up what, like 30 fantasy points against the Baltimore Ravens defense, which is pretty good. And you have a very fair point with trying to keep Nick Chubb healthy because they're going to need him in the playoffs. So I agree with the Kareem Hunt start. I also agree with the Cam Akers start. The last 3 weeks, he had 14 points, and 24 points. And before that, the entire season, he had single digits. So the last 3 weeks, consistent, been getting more volume, been putting up the points. Ride with Cam Akers there. And you're betting heavy on these Dolphin starters, aren't you?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, I think they're all going to hit their overs, whatever it is, betting wise. I think the Dolphins starter and Lynn Bowden are going to hit their overs.
Hey, well, we'll see what happens there. You may be correct. All right, moving on to wide receivers. Must starts for the week. Let it rip.
So last week we talked about Corey Davis, and he came out, had a disappointing day. Of course, he's popping off, and I say something about him, and he's like, "Oh no, today's not the day. We're gonna win, but I'm just not gonna do anything." But they're playing Detroit here, and I think now Detroit, I believe, is going to be without Matthew Stafford. So Detroit probably going to get down in this game. They might just run the ball a lot, but I think Corey Davis going against a weak defense, I think this is going to be a game where he's able to get back in rhythm. I believe he'll score a touchdown. AJ Brown get a touchdown and Derrick Henry get a touchdown. It really wouldn't surprise me. So there should be some value there. I like that start. I also like Brandon Ayuk. Debo Samuel probably getting shut down for the rest of the season. And Brandon Ayuk has, I believe it's 5 straight games with 17 and a half fantasy points, quietly being a hero for people's fantasy teams. So if you have him, you've probably noticed that production. You're probably already starting him. But for the few leagues that he's available in. And for anybody that may be on the fence about who to start, Brandon Ayuk going against Dallas should be an obvious start. He just got 16 targets in this last game when Debo went out early. And pretty much every time Debo's out of the lineup, he gets double-digit target shares. So he's an obvious start for the rest of the season as long as Debo's not there. And then last but not least, we're going back to T.Y. Hilton. And of course, playing Houston. Now, it's not in Houston, right? So might not be the explosion we saw a couple weeks ago because for some reason he's better against Houston in Houston. But either way, going against Houston, T.Y. Hilton, a couple good weeks back to back. He's really looking like his old self again. So I like T.Y. Hilton for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I know I say this a lot, but I agree. All three. Corey Davis has been consistent all season. He's coming off a high 38 fantasy points and then dropped the dud with a 4 point game. So didn't really expect that there. But like I said, all season he's been consistent. He's had at least over 10. And they're going against the Detroit Lions. So I can get behind that. Brandon Ayuk, like you said, silently consistent. You can't beat that. And T.Y. Hilton has exploded the last few weeks. He looks like the receiver of old, and I'm excited for it. He scored a touchdown in what, 3 straight games now?
Yep, 3 straight. Yep.
That's what I thought. So I have to agree with all those. So let's move on to the bench warmers. We did the starters, we did the waiver wire. Now the people you have to avoid because that matchup is so horrendous that they're not going to do a damn thing for you this week. Running backs, go.
The only running back that I really just don't like this week, because when I went into this, usually I'd have somebody outlandish. Like there were a couple. Dalvin Cook, I was a little nervous about, but he's Dalvin Cook. You're playing Dalvin Cook. His fantasy playoffs don't get cute. Chris Carson, though, that Seattle defense has been a problem, and they're playing Washington, and that offensive line in Seattle is most of the problem. Like they haven't been as good in the run game. because the offensive line is weak. They haven't been as good in the past game because the offensive line is weak. They're playing Washington. Washington has one of the best, if not the best, front four of 2020, and they're going to be flying through this offensive line all day. I think they're going to give Chris Carson and Russell Wilson some issues. So Chris Carson's somebody that if you can stay away from him this week, stay away from him.
Yep. And again, I have to agree. I have him on my roster in my league, which I lost in the first round of the playoffs. I wish the roster I have this week could be applied to last week because all my matchups, other than the Chris Carson matchup, are extremely favorable. That's the only one I'm nervous about. So I agree with you there. All right. Wide receivers, people to avoid.
So this first one's going to be Jarvis Landry, somebody we got high on, but he's going up against James Bradbury, and James Bradbury. I've mentioned it on all three of the episodes we do every week.
That you have.
I've talked a lot about James Bradbury this year, and deservedly so. He was really good with Carolina. He goes to New York, and he's become a shutdown corner for them. And I think Jarvis Landry is going to be another victim there. And so Jarvis, uh, the thing about the Browns is that you can expect them to run the ball, right? And with as much as they run the ball and the limited pass production that they get, if if there's even a slight bit of this guy's a bit of a shutdown corner, I'm nervous about Jarvis. He's a really good receiver. He's made a career of proving the doubters wrong, so he might do it here. But I have more faith in James Bradbury than I do Jarvis here. Adam Thielen going against Chicago, somebody that I had to pick one of the receivers for the Vikings. And I took probably 10 minutes trying to figure out which one to put on the list. But it came down to Adam Thielen because I just think overall Justin Jefferson's just better. He's more explosive. He can run past people more, whereas Adam Thielen's more of a technician, which can create space. But I think that Chicago defense is going to give the Vikings fits, and I think they're going to be able to take Adam Thielen away. I don't know if you're stopping Justin Jefferson's big playability, but I do think they can put a cap on Adam Thielen here. And the last one's going to be Tyler Lockett. For a lot of the same reason I'm sitting Chris Carson is the reason I don't like Tyler Lockett. Now, Tyler Lockett, ever since he exploded for that huge, what was it, 15 catch, 200-yard, 3 touchdown game, whatever it was, something crazy against Cardinals, I think it was, somebody.
Yeah, whoever had him in my league played me that week. So I remember that.
Yeah, you
I
remember
think
that
I
real
think it
well.
was my cousin Courtney.
Ah, yeah, that's right. I remember that one. Yep. But this ever since that game, he's just been very disappointing. Like a lot of this offense, it hasn't been good lately. But I don't think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for Tyler Lockett here. The pass defense in Washington has been good as well. We talked about the run defense with Chris Carson, but the pass defense for Washington has been just as good. They're I believe ranked fourth against the pass this year, so just not a team that I like. DK is a freak, so he might have a good game, but I'm not real confident about him either. But Tyler Lockett definitely somebody I want to stay away from.
Yeah, and once again, I agree with you on all three. Jarvis Landry, I have on the same squad that I have Chris Carson. The thing with Landry is his ceiling can be extremely high, but consistently he has mediocre games, especially when you go against very good defender such as Bradbury. So I can see Landry just having a mediocre game. He's still going to get his catches. He's still going to get some points, but he's not going to get that explosive high reward points that you're looking for, especially this time of year in the playoffs. So if you have somebody better to play, definitely explore that option. Adam Thielen, I don't know how I feel like I agree with this one or not. I'm not huge on the Bears defense. They're not the Bears defense that they have been in the past, but they're more than capable of shutting somebody down. And you make a very solid point that if they're going to shut down him or Justin Jefferson, it would probably be him because he's more of a technical route runner type receiver rather than just raw explosive ability. So I could see that. Whether or not that's going to happen, I don't know, but we'll see. And Tyler Lockett, this Washington defense looks like one of the best, if not the best defense out there right now. There's a lot to contend with the Indianapolis Colts and all those other great defenses out there. But this Washington defense is flying high. They are locking down players. They are making plays. They are forcing turnovers. So I have to agree with the Tyler Lockett sit there. All right. Well, Hefe's Week 15 power rankings are already out on our Facebook and Twitter pages at Horsemen Sports. Let us know what you think about your favorite team's rankings in the comment. Talk some shit. Keep Hefe entertained. He loves to argue. And again, help us reach 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and you'll have a shot at winning a free NFL authentic jersey from the NFL shop, bought and paid for by us as a token of appreciation for supporting us. We appreciate you guys tuning into us all season long. I know the fantasy segment's going to be winding down the next couple weeks, but as always, you could check out the Horseman Pro Football Talk with Brad. We do picks and previews every week before the games begin, and then afterwards we dive right into the implications of the playoffs. So check us out usually on Tuesdays and Thursdays with that. You got anything else you want to throw in here, Hefe?
Take everything we said into account. We do know what we talk about. We've been doing this for a little while, so we're just trying to help everybody win. So good luck this weekend.
That's all we got for you guys today. We'll be back on Thursday with Brad for our Week 15 picks and preview show. We will see you then. Thanks for listening, and sayonara.